This is Carlos Tullis.
And this is Allison Tullis. From Screens. You're listening to Word on the Street.
What's up? How's it going? How you been, man? Or woman? Everything good? Things are going good with me. Check it out, yo. This is Word on the Street, where we discover and celebrate the culture of the Seattle music scene. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming back again. Glad you're here with us. I'm so thankful to have you back with us. So this is version 132 of the podcast with Ahren Lanfor, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But as you know already, we do an intro at the beginning of every podcast, and it's usually about 10 minutes or less. Today I'm feeling it'll be much less because there's kind of less to talk about. So let's get it going. Just a couple things to announcements to make. The first announcement is I'm coming back to Seattle for a trip, June 7th through the 16th. I'm going to be in Seattle, kicking it live, going to a bunch of shows. Got 4 on my books already to go see, but I also have a bunch of podcasts I'm going to loading up on podcasts, so I have them ready. I'm going to try to get at least 10, maybe more, because I'm realizing that my band, we're going on tour. My band's the Zim and A-Rock, and we're going on tour in August, and it might mess with the timing of things. If I'm able to go on tour, then I'll have to, money, that thing called money, and how I'll have to put money aside to pay for rent while I'm out on tour, because I won't be making money on tour. It's just because we're just not that level of a band yet to actually make any money on tour. So I'm going to be spending money on tour. So that means I might not be able to buy another ticket for a little bit longer to get back to Seattle for my next round of podcast recordings. You know what I'm saying? Or I might just do the LA thing at that time. There's lots of options, right? If you look at it, it all depends on your perspective. What am I talking about, the LA thing? Well, there's a whole bunch of Seattle musicians that live in LA. So I could just start hitting those guys up and do a more LA local and drive up for a day and get a couple podcasts. So anyways, there's plans. There's ways to work around this. Just got to keep on hustling, right? So anyways, coming back to Seattle, June 7th through the 16th. Like I said, getting a lot of interviews, getting a lot of podcast recordings, but also going to play a show with my band, the Zim and A-Rock. We're going to play June 11th at the High Dive. And as of right now, we have Morning Glory Revival on the lineup with us. And I'm still waiting on my last band to come through. So I'll let you know as soon as I know who the next band is. So, and that's really all the announcements. There's no new Patreons this week. Patreon, what's that? That's what supports the podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, you can do it through Patreon. Patreon.com/thezim is the Patreon URL. And what is Patreon? Patreon is like Kickstarter, but it's just kind of a crowdsourcing thing. It's a thing where you decide that you like this product of the podcast and you want to pay for it, even though it's free. Isn't that kind of weird? But I need support. I need help to keep this going. So I'd love your help. And all I look for is $1. If you can do $1, kick down $1, that'd be awesome. However, there are some tier levels. I've been discovering new ways to make tier level things happen. So I have a couple off the top of my head that I remember. I have a t-shirt tier level at $25. So if you kick down $25 a month, I'll send you a t-shirt. Yay. And then there's I make this clutch, this Alexander Thomas clutch. It's a company of mine, and it's a clutch purse, not a clutch in a car. Clutch purse. And I make it. And so if you donate, if you subscribe for $100 on the podcast a month, which is a lot, I realize, I'll make you a custom clutch of your like whatever colors you want, anything like so custom. So why I mentioned those two is because I'm right at this very moment I have these special limited offer tiers. One is only 3 people will be allowed to subscribe for $33.33. I know, weird. I just tried to pick some crazy numbers. Anyways, $33.33 will get you any clutch of your choice that's already made, that's on the Etsy page, my store for the clutch. So if you want one of those Alexander Thomas clutches and you want to support the podcast and you want, all that good stuff that comes along with it, then kick over there, go to the Patreon page and kick down, and only 3 of you can do that. And then also only 5 of you can subscribe to the podcast for $8.88, and I'll send you a t-shirt. So it's a lower level for the t-shirt one. You'll get it for $8.88, but only 5 of you can do it. It's a limited kind of offer, So those are my new incentives. So hopefully maybe one of you will kick down at least $1 or more and check it out. So if you want more information about that, feel free to ask or just go over to patreon.com/thezim and check it out. And like I was saying, the whole money thing back with the tour idea and all that stuff and how I have to deal with money and all that stuff. So I realize that you might not have any flexibility in your budget to do anything. $1 could be just too much. And I understand that because sometimes it's too much for me too. So there are 2 other amazing ways to support the podcast. One is going to Facebook, facebook.com/Word on the Street podcast. Give that page a like, share it with your friends, and be sure to always, whenever you're sharing content off the page or sharing the page, make sure you're telling your friends why you're sharing it, why it's important to you, because otherwise they won't see it. It's like if you just hit share, it's like nothing. But if you hit share and say, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life, then people will notice and go, oh, wow, well, let me check it out too. And then also, iTunes. Go over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. You can just go to iTunes, click the search thing, and put in Word on the Street, click search, and it'll be right there. One of the first couple. There's a bunch of Word on the Streets out there. I don't know what I was thinking when I chose Word on the Street. No, I know exactly what I was thinking, but I ran with it anyway, and it's Word on the Street, so look for the little robots and WOTS, and you'll be able to subscribe to it. And I'm really looking for another review over on iTunes, so make it happen. Do the iTunes thing. All right, so let's get into this podcast with Ahren Lanfor, audio engineer, producer, DIY enthusiast, and scenester, and making it happen. Scenester, that's a bad term to use. But anyways. And also like real art action in there, plays music, does a lot of stuff. So we'll learn all about what he's all about right now. So let's do this. I boost the levels later on. Check. We're on the street with Ahren Lanfor, right? Did I do that right?
Yes, sir.
So how you doing, man?
I'm good. Busy as always. A little tired.
Yeah.
Catching up.
Join the club, right?
Yeah.
That's the best way, though. Would you rather? I don't know. How are you? Do you like to just keep working and be a little tired than not be and have nothing going on?
Yeah, actually, I like to stay busy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I feel like I'm wasting my time.
Exactly. I'm just like that. So we have to set up. What I like to do at the beginning of these kind of podcasts is set up the theater of the mind a little bit, and we have to talk about where we are.
Yeah.
So tell us where we are right now.
Well, I am freelance engineering, recording bands.
Yeah.
I am booking bands at Real Art Tacoma occasionally, and I do live sound there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop you real quick. I mean, physically, where are we?
Oh.
We'll get to that.
That's true.
You're about to get to my second kind of question, but physically, where are we?
We're in Tacoma, Washington.
Yes.
At a warehouse where pretty much every Tacoma band practices at,
yeah.
called Hush. And the studio that's located inside of it's called AI Studio.
Yeah.
It's where I record local bands for a much more affordable price to make it work for everybody.
Sure.
That's where we're sitting right now.
Yeah. So describe AI Studio for the people. What's it look like in here?
Well, it's a DIY setup. It's basically a big open room that has a smaller room built in it.
Yeah.
So we can control the audio between this place and the other place. There's a lot of wood.
Got some paisley
some
fabric designs.
Some sound panels. There's a lot of amps.
Tons of amps.
It's really cramped.
Considering the size of the room, there's probably more amps than you'd expect.
Yeah, you could probably have 2 or 3 bands practicing in here with those amps, except you won't be able to fit all those people in here.
Yeah. That's one of the questions I'll have is how you use this space and what it's been like for using it to record bands and such. So I think that's pretty good. I think people might have an idea of, I don't know, it's small. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's small.
It's small. I personally like this. The room we're sitting in is like split a third of the way down the whole room, basically.
Yeah.
And it has, like you said, the soundproofing and whatnot. It feels cozy. I like this little space that we're in.
It's got a good intimate feel.
Yeah. And you got the window so you can see. You even got an egg. where it's like it makes me wonder where that window came from that has the angle on it. Yeah.
My friend built it, so I mean, he definitely has all the details on it, but it's here, and I'm utilizing it while I can.
Cool, right on. So that's where we're sitting. Awesome. Hush Studio inside Hush Studios. It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
So what you were about to do a few minutes ago was kind of do what I like to do, is like this bullet point idea of the things that you're involved with that we may or may not talk about, but kind of get a rundown of all the ideas. So you were just mentioning you're a producer, engineer.
Yes.
You know, that's one thing. The next thing was you did start to talk about real art.
Yes. Started booking some shows here and there, but mostly I do live sound, and I try to help with any other little detail that might. It's a community space, so you know, if anybody who needs to get involved there, try to point the direction for them so they can do their thing. You know, bring everybody together, type of thing.
Yeah, I'd love to get nerdy on your experience with real art, what it's all about from your perspective. I think that's a valuable resource for the community to know about, for sure.
Absolutely.
So we'll get in there. Also, you mentioned to me you're a musician.
Yes. So I play bass and guitar and a couple other instruments, but I've been in a few bands in the local area for a little while, but recently I just joined a band that's been around for about 2 years, but they've taken like a year-long break.
Okay.
They're called Of Sleep. It's
Sleep?
Of Sleep.
Of Sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a post-rock type band.
Okay.
All instrumental, maybe a little vocals.
Oh, okay, sure.
So we just recorded an album, and we're going to put that out sometime in April.
Okay. Sweet.
We'll see what happens.
That'll line up perfectly when this comes out.
Cool.
So it's done. Yeah. That's just so I forgot. I always forget to mention when these things are coming out for people, but
for sure.
Yeah, it'll be around late April, but maybe early May. Actually, probably the first week of May. So, anyways.
Yeah, we're taking our time on that, but it's just one of the other things I do.
Okay.
Just play some music.
Play music. All right. Anything else in this mixture of musical culture and whatnot? Anything or something random that you're involved with?
Well, I try to think about what I've been involved in for the past 10 years musically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands around here I know and are up and coming too.
Yeah.
And because of what I've been doing with recording or real art or any other show, I've been trying to go out of my way also to help local bands, whether that's educating them on some things that they probably information has been forgotten through time and or the internet or whatever, or things that they just never really thought of. And obviously they have to find their own journey, but it's kind of like a leg up, just hey, this might be able to help you. And I don't know, just trying to bring the community in a little bit in a different way.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, let's dig into it. The reason one of the reasons why I started reaching out to you was I interviewed or had the what is it called? The A split. What was it? What do they call it? Four Corners EP?
Oh, yes. The Four Corners EP.
Yeah. They all came in here.
Action S, Crystal Desert, let's see, Astor House, and the Pronouns.
Yes, exactly.
It's been a moment. I had to think about that one.
No, and so I heard that album, and I was just blown away. And I've heard your name come up, and then we kind of all started to settle in that, oh, you produced that. It sounded amazing. I've heard your name before. You're in Tacoma. I need to talk to you. And that's another kind of bullet point idea, is this getting your impression of Tacoma versus Seattle, not versus in that sense, but just, Tacoma and Seattle, how they relate in your perspective together, how being a Tacoma band or artist or community, what it's like down here and what you've experienced versus some of maybe what you've heard of Seattle or what you've experienced in more of that city, and just the whole vibe of what's going on. So,
this is something I've seen for a while, and it seems to be more of a topic these days because Seattle's getting really expensive, so everybody's moving to Tacoma.
Sure.
But from my perspective, they've been one and the same.
Yeah.
The music, all the bands up there and all the bands down here, almost interconnected. There's some of those bands up there are from Tacoma, vice versa.
Yeah.
A huge friends group, everybody knows each other. Obviously, there's a little division as far as Tacoma's a working class city, and Seattle's the big corporate thing.
Sure.
But that stuff to me doesn't matter. It's about the community and the people. A lot of support. bands, the Northwest is pretty big.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to play shows, like you have to go to these different cities. It's almost like going to a different state to some point. Mm-hmm. I'm from the East Coast and New York area, and it's the same scenario. Like, but you got borders that are close to each other.
Yeah. How long have you been in the Northwest?
I moved here in 2006.
After
my last band over there kind of fell apart.
Okay.
But
all right.
but yeah, Seattle is a wonderful city. It has a lot to offer as far as music. It's amazing. A lot of cool bands. There's a lot of cool venues to play. Some of the issues up there I've been noticing with like past 10 years have been the promoter thing. But I think it's mostly just, you're in a big city. You have to sell tickets and there's expensive buildings and they have to do their thing. So like there's a trade-off somewhere. But Tacoma, there definitely has been an all ages vibe for a while. There's also a lot of bar venues, so it's kind of like a weird mix here.
Yeah. Am I taking away maybe that there's more pressure in Seattle to sell out, or you may not sell out, but just more pressure to make a successful show all around than it is maybe a little bit down here? It's not as quite as...
down here, like it's a bar atmosphere.
Yeah.
You have some of these venues where the bands could come in and they just play and maybe the bar sales will pay for it, whatever. But as far as all ages shows, like even having it mixed, there definitely, it's not like there's no bar, so there's no money to be made for there, so you really have to work harder.
Yeah.
So there's more incentive to try to build a bigger show with the community, but it's a weird spot too where a lot of bands have broken up, the scene's changed so much, it's a whole new era of younger people getting involved. So it's like building up again. Mm-hmm. But up in Seattle, it's the same thing up there too. There's definitely some all ages places, but there's definitely I don't know, I want to say like a cloud or some sort of like vibe as far as some of the places go, because it's been around for a while. Yeah. There's definitely an industry. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed for some things, it's like some people are getting tired because they it's been the same thing for a while. Yeah. So I feel like there definitely needs to be at some point like another like revitalization, more like motivation. And I am seeing it here and there. I think it's just coming with the bands that are coming up.
Sure.
And I think they're the ones that are leaders and all that. So that also plays into the venues as well. Like getting bands motivated helps them get motivated, and it just builds on top of each other.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting time.
Yeah.
But as far as Tacoma and Seattle, I appreciate them both. Yeah. I just prefer living in Tacoma. It's more affordable and it's in the middle of everything.
Sure. Did you land in Tacoma when you moved out here originally?
Technically, yes. Basically in Puyallup. It's on the outskirts of Tacoma. I have family out there.
Okay.
But I used to live here in the early 90s. Okay. So I definitely was in the area for a little bit and remember exactly how it is. But the music around here now I appreciate a lot more.
Sure.
Because I'm more involved, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So the big question for me is Ahren as the person, right? Is like where do you put the weight of who you are, and if there is any weight in the sense of do you see yourself more of the engineer producer, or do you see yourself more of a musician? Or is there do you see no division at all, or how do you what do you gravitate toward?
So for engineering and producing and musician, to me they're all intertwined.
Yeah. Okay.
But also because of my love for the music and the music scene.
Yeah.
And I find myself in a position where I can help people too while doing it as a business or making a living off of it. I also would consider it being like an extra member of the band to a point, which is technically what a producer or whoever would be anyways, and that's how it should be. Somebody's an extension off of what the band's trying to do, but staying true to what the band wants.
Sure.
Being a musician, I think, helps a lot because you are in their shoes. Mm-hmm. You know exactly how they're feeling, what they're going through, so having that patience to let them do their thing and capture it. And sometimes I do need that pressure, but you have to feel those spots out to bring everybody together in the band and then bringing out the music. As far as engineering, that's more the technical aspect of capturing the sound. For me, everything I've done ever has been self-taught. I never went to school for any of this. That's why it took me 10 years to get to where I'm at, and I still have a long way to go.
Sure.
But
what have been some of the biggest, like, well, let's steer this. Well, I don't know. I'm steering it right now into that world, the producer engineering world, a little bit. What have been some of the growth moments for you in terms of where did you pick up some of your biggest tips or information, or how did you work toward becoming proficient and feeling confident, and when, like, I don't know, where were some of those moments?
It was numerous moments, actually, and I do remember a lot of them. The first one ever was when I was in New York with my old band. It was called Asia Minor, just like typical for its time, emo, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But we went to go work with a guy named John McClario at Nada Studios, and he is responsible for recording like My Chemical Romance's first stuff, Brand New, and Polar Bear Club, and you name it, like a couple other bands. So we went to go work with him, and just like everything I've ever seen, like seeing a guitar, wanting to play music, when I see it and just like snaps or clicks, you're like, okay, that's hitting me now. I want to do that. Same thing happened in the studio. I saw him working, how the whole environment was. It seemed really interesting and fun. And basically I just observed and watched him. And then from there, seeing how his whole setup was and how he worked, and just taking that, and then throughout the years just trying to gain my own knowledge on that.
So he set up a foundation for you?
He basically set up a foundation, and then when I moved over here, got involved in music again. It still kind of stuck with me, and I just started taking that and then working my way up, recording local bands for free or cheap, like something that felt like it was worth doing for the band. And from there I just started building up my technique, or learning things from there.
Well, what I'm taking away from what you just said is, like, you didn't put yourself in a vacuum. You, like, were exposed. You were out there. You were started in the studio, getting exposed to that studio environment and seeing how it all worked. And then you just exposed yourself to just doing it. Just, like, helping other bands and making sure just, like, keep working on it. That's awesome.
And throughout the years, like, it's evolved, too, where there's so many different ways you can mix a record or record it. Eventually, I would say past 4 years, I finally found my style of mixing or technique that started bringing out the sound that I've always been trying to go for. And also just working with the way you work with bands too, and capturing their sound. So I feel like I'm in a better spot now out of all these years of doing it, where I can have a consistent sound, or have that general knowledge that just takes care of the whole spectrum of recording and producing and all that. And there's obviously a whole lot more I can learn, and I am learning.
Is there anything when you work with a band, like I've heard some producer / engineer type people really don't want to interfere is the wrong way to phrase it, but like want to just really stay true and capture just what the band does. And then there's some engineers / producers that will put more of their like fingerprint on what they do. Like and it sounds to me like, I don't know, maybe I'll let you answer it, but when you mentioned finding your, like, how you like to mix and stuff, that might be your fingerprint on a project. But tell me in your words how you like to approach working with a band. You mentioned a little bit earlier, but because you are a musician, you allow them the room to discover, but maybe...
So, again, there's so many different ways to record a band. But because I work with a lot of local young bands who have never been in a studio before or have, I approach it differently depending on their level as musicians or as a band. But generally it's the same scenario where I like capturing the real feel of the band. And I usually let them play live together, and then take that and then I make it solid as far as like having a consistent song or the way it's recorded. Because you could play to a click track, or you could play just live. What I like to do is play live and then add a click track to that, so that allows it to still have some solid feel to it, like the human natural feel of what they captured and what they played, but also from the studio end, the producer end, the solid recording, and then from there, depending on what the band wants to do, we find the foundation to lay down the music and then build on top of that. So like the rhythm guitar or the bass player, whoever is the most solid. And then, if I hear ideas or somebody's having an issue, like they're trying to figure something out, you know, I'll interject. I'll put in my opinion or a thought. Yeah. But the cool thing about these bands, and most of the bands I record, is the music. Like, I like all the bands. Yeah. Like, I listen to so much music and I appreciate so much. So it's almost like I feel like I could be in all these bands. Yeah. So it allows me to have these ideas. And not all the time. It doesn't work. You know, it doesn't always work all the time. So, you know, you try to put it out there. But I keep telling the bands, too, even though the guys who might be really, like, reluctant to try things. Because, you know, like, this happened to me, too. There's a guy who produced a record for one of my old bands, and he was telling me to try this and that, and I was so stubborn, like, this is what I wrote. I'm not trying to, you know. And then over time, I realized it's better to try some things because you don't really have the time that most bands will, in a bigger atmosphere or budget, whatever, to do these things. Yeah. So take advantage of it while you can, and if it doesn't work, there's always a delete button. Yeah. At least you tried it and see, because it could change your mind. You might be like, oh wow, this actually was a great idea. It's more of the learning how to be in a band scenario, I think. Like, you're in a band with a bunch of people. You all contribute to the sound. That's what makes the band. There are some bands where there's one guy who writes everything, and all their people just want to, like, play it. Yeah. But I like it better when everybody's contributing, and they're open to each other's ideas, and that includes people they're willing to work with as well.
Sure, yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. Yeah. I appreciate all of it, though.
Do you have like, well, I just personally just had an experience with a producer that, like, who worked on one of my songs, and it's like the best thing ever, and like I never want to go back now, like, because I've been wanting that. Like, it's like finding that balance of, like, basically finding someone you trust, right? Yeah. Because I think that's where the stubbornness comes in sometimes. Is like you think the producer or whoever doesn't understand you because you haven't been in the band for so long or whatever. You don't know what we're trying to do. But it's like, if you could find that level of trust, do you feel like you build up a good level of trust with the people you work with?
A majority of the bands I work with, I feel like there is a trust, and I do try to give space to build that trust. Yeah. That comes with just recording them for the first time, or taking it slow as far as, like, adding my own input on anything. But I've also noticed a lot of bands know what I do, or they just know me. Yeah. It's like, you know, going to shows or playing in bands with them or whatever it is, that they trust me already. There's only been a few instances where I've had some guys have, they really are particular about what they want to do, and that's totally fine. That's how, you know, that's their art, their craft, and I respect that. But, you know, it's just trying to find that balance to work with somebody and find that trust.
If, let's say there's there's no previous agenda or anything, there's no, I don't know, whatever, but what is your preferred, like, what do you like if you're working with a project? What would be your favorite way to work with a band? Like, if they would you prefer to be more just less, you know, idea hands-on, or a little bit more ideas and hands-on kind of?
Well, I would like to let them trust me to help them get what they want, but on my level. Okay. And what I mean by that is, let's say a band plays shows, and they write music, and they have these amps and their drums. In the studio, that stuff doesn't matter in the sense of how you're projecting it to people. Yeah. Like, live, you have that stuff. You're going to see that and hear it. So I feel like a lot of bands think that's how it's supposed to be. But in the studio environment, you double track guitars, you layer this and that. Effects pedals, like, you don't have to have it through the amp. You could have it on the top of the recorded mix or whatever. It's just a different aspect of the same thing. Yeah, yeah. You have to look at it from, like, a 3D viewpoint, or like an outside source. If a band was to come and record with me, the ideal situation for me to help them capture what they want would be for me to hear what they are trying to do in advance, even if it's a rough recording, so I can have an idea of what they're doing. And then when they come in, let them get situated, get in the environment, get comfortable, and then let me show them the tools they can use to choose from. They don't have to just use what they have. And sometimes the sound they have is the only place you can find that or whatever. And that's totally fine. But I've had some bands where they've come in with like an amp that is a good amp, but there's another amp here that could be better for this style of music you're playing.
Yeah.
And they're really stuck, like they don't want to try that. It's like, well, these are tools. You're in a studio.
Yeah.
Utilize it. You're paying for this. This is going to be your sound. It doesn't matter. Like live, use your stuff.
Yeah.
But in the studio, that doesn't matter. It's about the sound, serving the music and your performance and your tone. Yeah. And this could be what you want if you just try it.
And it sounds to me like it goes back to what we were just talking about, that whole trust conversation.
Yeah.
It's like your ideal situation, the way I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you would like the band to trust you to take them where they want to go.
Yeah.
You know,
I know, like for a good example, a well-known producer, there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
A band will seek this person out because they have a particular sound, the way they record and produce things and mix. And that person will literally make them play on the gear that they have or their drums or whatever, because that's the sound they're getting.
Yeah.
They're seeking this person out to capture their music and their sound using his tools.
Mm.
And it's just like understanding the concepts of all these things. And again, it's all like up in the air of like if you want to do that or not. I mean, like I said, I like to be open to everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like trying to educate bands on the other aspect of just being a band or playing shows, you know.
Sure.
But I don't know. It's interesting.
That's awesome. I love all that. That's great. Where do you see your producer engineering career? Like you said, in this room, what do we call it? AI
studio.
AI studio. You work out of here for, you said, some bands that can't afford maybe a bigger studio.
Yeah.
You kind of a budget constraint, whatever, you know, it helps, it gets people. But you must also work in bigger studios?
Yes. So throughout the years, I've been recording at various studios or my own little spots.
Okay.
My friend opened this place up a while ago, and he invited me to record here. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I know he's moving the studio at some point this year.
Sure. Wow.
So it's not going to be around forever, but there is a new studio that's been in construction for 3+ years, and it's finally open now. It's called Decade Sound Studio. It's right across the street from Real Art, actually, Real Art Tacoma. It's a full-fledged studio. Big drum room, isolation rooms, a big control room, lounge. Basically what you would find at any professional studio.
Yeah.
It's really big. It's got really nice gear. The owner's very accommodating. He's really nice.
Yeah.
He's opened a lot of doors for me. But as a freelance engineer, if a band wanted to go somewhere, another studio if they have in mind, I'm very accommodating to that too.
Okay.
But right now, that's pretty much where I'm working is Decade Sound and this place while it lasts.
Cool. Let's talk a little. Let's do just a little bit of gear talk again, like that kind of leads from what we just said. The places you like to record. Do you have are you Pro Tools guy? What are you?
So I taught myself on Pro Tools.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the reason why it's an industry standard is because it is actually really easy to pick up.
Okay.
I mean, I taught myself how to use it. It was really easy. It took me a long time to get the little shortcuts and little things, the advanced parts of it in there. But plenty of other great programs too.
Yeah.
But Pro Tools for me just works. It clicks. I know how to use it. I know what to get out of it. I use PC.
Yeah.
It's because I was able to afford it and build my own system.
Okay.
But I do like Macs. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of studios use those. They're built to do a job, and they don't fail for the most part, as far as I know. And then as far as recording bands, I know there's a big topic between like digital realm, analog realm. Tapes coming back slowly. There's certain studios that have it still, some that don't. I definitely love the warm analog tape sound. But I taught myself in the digital world. And I know there is a hybrid thing going on too, where people are using both. I think it's all wonderful. I think it's great to keep the old stuff involved because there is a sound to it as well, and a history and knowledge, just like anything else. We don't keep using it or whatever, it's going to be forgotten. And it's like, actually this brings me to a small other topic real quick. CDs and MP3. There's so much information that's been lost over time in a short amount of time, where the standard of of music is like in this weird limbo. Everybody's using MP3, whatever, but that kind of stems from the format of CDs, which nobody's buying anymore, and the way bands are mastering their records and putting it out, like pressing and all that. Like there's a lot of things they could be doing that they just don't know how to do it anymore realize. It's really interesting
because
to see
they're not going through the CD channel anymore.
Yeah, but it's still technically part of the system. It's like this information's been lost because one thing is taken over, but we still use it. Yeah. So it's like a weird limbo right now. It's from a engineer or producer perspective. Whenever time I'm recording a band, I have to like tell them the things that they could be doing to help press their CD or get their MP3s, stuff that they just don't know about.
Is there an example you can share here?
Well, there was a band that they wanted to press a CD.
Yeah.
Now, CDs back in the day, and still to this day, there's a industry standard called Redbook Audio that they came up with to keep everything streamlined so that it's all the same.
Yeah.
And in that, it's basically just all the wave tracks that we record.
Yeah.
We put them on the CD, and on the CD you can put the song titles, whatever, and then there's these codes, like a UPC code for the album, and then for every song there's an ISRC code, and that's just basically an ID tag for every song. And that information is on the CD, and what that does is when you go send that to get pressed, they replicate that, so every CD has all that information on there. That information, if you have those codes, you already paid for the service or went through some other provider or whatever, it registers a SoundScan, which is the top chart Billboard information. And all that does is really help you keep track of your CD, your song names, or sorry, well, yeah, that too. Like basically keeps everything together. Lets you keep track of your music on the internet, and also for sales or whatever little detail. Even though that's not really important, it's kind of some of the stuff that's still being used today, and it could be helpful. But it also can go into the MP3 realm.
So a lot of, are you saying that?
And I think the biggest issue, actually, was what I'm trying to get to, actually, I just keep going over it, is I'm seeing bands send MP3s in to get CDs made.
Oh.
And that's the backwards, the lost knowledge. It's like, but the MP3 is a lower quality of the CD, which is what it starts off on. So you want to send that wave, what you're converting it from, to get pressed. You're basically doing yourself a disservice to your own music.
For sure.
And there's many other things. But
cool. So what's for you as in this, like, we'll just round off this part of the conversation. We're at that halfway point. So let's do like round off this part of the conversation of do you have any goals around your producer engineering world that you'd like to work toward, or, you know?
Well, I definitely want to keep building a name for myself. I want to work in bigger studios. I still want to work with local bands on an affordable level, things to help to build them up. I want to build a community together. Anything I can do to help any band that wants to help themselves, I definitely want to be a part of that. But I definitely would love to have my own place that's permanent. To do what I love to do is recording bands. Playing in bands. I would love to see myself keep on doing that and touring and releasing music, whether it's on a local level, just only forever, or just actually trying to expand and tour. I mean, I even do video stuff too. I would like to make a movie someday.
Okay, we can talk about that.
But yeah, anyway.
Well, that's great. So you just want to just keep building, it sounds like, with the career and keep working with more bands, and you know. So get a hold of Ahren, make it happen. Let's drop in some music. What do you want to do first?
Well, I just finished recording a split for 2 bands at the newer studio, Decade Sound. The first band on the split is New Brighton. The second band is Counterbalance. They're both from Seattle. I met them at Real Art at one of the shows I was doing sound at. And the whole recording process, those bands are really tight. They're really on top of what they're doing. Their songwriting's phenomenal. So it was wonderful to just work with them. I fell in love with them seeing them live. They just released their split. So I guess I could just plug in some of their songs just to.
Do you want to do both?
I'm trying to help them.
Is it two songs, just one A, B side?
They did 2 songs each side.
Okay. Why don't we do one of each back to back?
Okay.
And then we'll get...
the first song they have that I guess we can bring up would be for New Brighton, Brave Page.
Okay.
And then Counterbalance, they have a song that I'm really enjoying, Treatment Plan. It's got a lot of energy behind it. Both bands are really pushing their feelings and emotions and their lyrics and the music and everything together. So those two songs stand out for me between the two bands.
All right, we'll get to your Brave Page and Treatment Plan.
Yeah.
Silent, frozen, still, nothing
cold outside! It's cold outside! It's cold outside! Please let me in! All right, this is a quick reminder. This is a community-supported podcast, and you can do it 3 ways. Patreon.com/thezim. Kick down a subscription of your choice, any amount you want, $1 or more. Do it up. Facebook.com/Word on the Street podcast. Give the page a like, share it around, and then iTunes. Go over there, find it, subscribe to it, rate and review it. All right, let's get back to Ahren Lanfor and the Word on the Street podcast. All right, before the songs, you brought up this idea of like you enjoyed these bands we just heard.
Yeah.
Has there been any bands that you've come across that you were like, I need to record you guys?
That's definitely one of those. Like both of those bands are definitely in that realm.
Okay.
But there's been a lot of that.
Yeah.
Every time I see a band perform live and it connects with me, which is how I usually try to discover music as well.
Sure.
Like some band will come out with an album and I'll actually wait.
Yeah.
Because either it has too much hype surrounding it or whatever. I like to discover it on my own terms, and usually that means just seeing them live and connecting with them that way.
Sure, yeah.
But for a lot of bands around here, there's a lot of great bands, and I see them, and I'm like, I really want to be a part of that. I want to help capture that sound that I just heard. So it's like trying to get my own personal music library.
Yeah,
I guess you could say, but.
No, I understand.
It's for them, but it's also for me.
Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, the podcast is very much like that for me. Like when I hear, like, just this is a perfect example. I heard your production, I heard your work, and I was like, I got to talk to that guy, get his voice on the podcast.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I do the same thing. Just with podcasts, it's slightly different.
It's, being a music fan.
Yeah.
The excitement's still there.
Yeah.
A lot of people see a lot of things dying off, but no, there's still people that love music in different ways. And that's my way of liking music, is recording bands and seeing them live and connecting with that way.
Oh, it's pretty much a fact that like anybody that says, there's no good music anymore or anything of that realm, that kind of idea.
I'm 34. I technically should be saying that, and sometimes I do, but no, it's not. That's not true, because it always changes, and it was the same way it's always been. It's a cycle.
Yeah, you just got to get out there and just kind of just be willing to expose yourself to new ideas and just kind of do it. It's pretty awesome. So let's talk real art for a little bit.
Okay.
Let's see. Just give us from your perspective, what is real art, and just kind of give us the kind of idea of what's going on there.
There were some friends who got involved together to build this venue called Real Art Tacoma. I've known some of these guys for a while. Just hearing about an all-ages place coming back to Tacoma got me excited.
Yeah.
So I got involved a little bit in the beginning. When they started building the place up, came and started helping with that a little bit. The place is a legit venue, basically. It has a nice stage, nice sound system, a digital console. It's a 300 capacity venue. We built a concession stand to put all the snacks and drinks and all that. There's 2 other businesses that are involved in the place in the front of the building. Thunderdome, which is a clothing boutique. And then there's Making Music, which does shirt printing. So they're kind of connected together.
Oh, cool.
It's been an interesting process. I think the place has been open for a little over a year now. It's a community place. Basically, anybody can get in there and put their stamp on the place, build it to whatever they want it to be with everybody else. All volunteer-based. So because of that, it's been a little difficult because everybody has jobs or lives and, putting their own money into the place. So it's had its ups and downs with just keeping the place going and running and trying to understand how to run a venue. But there's been a lot of things that have allowed everybody a part of it to understand to run a venue, like by booking some big bands or working with people or getting a community understanding of what should be happening at the place. Sure. So it's been a cool place.
Tell us again. I know you mentioned at the top, but what do you? You were attracted to the space. What do you do in the space? Like, what's your main support, or how do you?
For what I'm doing from the beginning, besides doing live sound, trying to help a lot of local bands understand the the work ethic of getting on stage, setting up, breaking down, some things that like some of the industry stuff does, like bands that are more professional. I'm trying to like interject that when I can. Obviously, when you're in the moment of working, you don't have that time. But I'm just trying to be helpful as much as possible. The volunteers, people that come in, just trying to be really friendly, accommodating, explain as much as I can, let them do whatever they can to help, get involved more if they can. I've been doing some of the online promotion for like the social media accounts because nobody else has been. But just some of the basic stuff like that. Any little spot I can get involved in to help, I'm trying to do. To me, I feel like it's something I can do to give back to somebody else besides what I do on my normal time. Just help expand and build up the community. Let younger people get involved and book their own shows, book touring bands, start their own bands, do whatever.
Who's the figurehead of the whole project?
It's actually a bunch of people. There's names on a lease, but that's not how it works. Like I said, it's a community place. Honestly, everybody is a figurehead there. If you want to get involved and be a part of that venue, we have meetings, community meetings, we have staff meetings, volunteer meetings, all kinds of meetings, a lot of groups. It's a nonprofit, so we're trying to maintain a structure of like committees that handle certain jobs. It's not perfect. We definitely don't meet as much as we would like to, but we are there and we are working on it. But Brian Skiffington is one of the people that works there. He's one of the main bookers. There's Tom Long, Alex Shellhammer. Those two guys are part of Thunderdome. They're also on the lease. There's Phil Peterson, JP. He actually worked at KGRG for a while, and I think he has some connection in the radio realm. Like that's his field. Like that's where he works. Alex Harvey, Danny. There's a lot of people involved. Pudding Cup. But yeah, I haven't been there in a moment because I've been so busy. But pretty much anybody who wants to get part of that place, just go online, reach out to somebody there, or anybody who volunteers there, or just show up to one of the meetings, or even just the venue itself at a show and talk. I personally would like to see everybody utilize an all ages place. Not even here, like anywhere else. There's the Vera Project in Seattle. I know there's some other places surrounding by. I've been hearing new places popping up. Just kind of revitalize the scene again. Get everybody connected, work together, learn from each other, expand. It's been an interesting journey. That's all I gotta say.
I think one of the one of the most kind of appealing parts of getting involved for a lot of musicians and whatever community members would be to play shows at the space. What in your perspective, what does Real Art look for when you want to play a show in the space? Well,
it has to pay bills. It is a nonprofit, so there is some standards for booking as far as maintaining promotion and payouts, like the way it's paid out. The only people that get paid there are the sound people. Because it's a professional position, and eventually you would like to see if there ever was funding coming in from a city or some other organization, paid positions, so that it can maintain itself outside of a volunteer only. Like we still would want volunteers there, but just administrative things, so it's just running on its own on the higher end level of like finances and all that, business structure wise stuff. But for bands, we would love to have, if you're in a band, like you want to book a show there, talk to the booking promoter or whoever's there through the email we have, booking@realarttacoma.com, and to book your own show. Bring in your own bands, promote it.
Cool.
There was some bands, Pressa, I'm Not Me, I think. It's been a moment since I've heard some of these bands, but they're all School of the Arts students, and they all booked the show, and it was phenomenal. There was a lot of people there. They all promoted themselves. They got heavily involved. It was one of the best things I've seen in a while, as far as community.
Oh, awesome.
And everybody working together. And that's the stuff that I like to see. Just
awesome. Well, I want to reserve more information about Real Art, because I want to I'd love to have a Real Art exclusive podcast. So maybe down the line,
that could be
a bunch of the Real Art people can all get in a room together and we can just nerd out about Real Art.
Absolutely.
So let's save that.
Yes.
For that time.
I'm just one person. There's many more people that could talk about that. It's not just my perspective.
Cool. Well, let's talk about you as a musician a little bit. Okay. You said you got into a new band. You're starting a new band?
So I joined a band that's been around for a moment. It's actually kind of a funny story in a sort of journey in a sort of way. Sure. I've been in a couple bands throughout the years. Yeah. One of my last ones was a band called Low There, Do I See My Brother? They're called Low There now. Just a little more simple for everybody. Left that band about a year or so ago, after 4 years of starting that band with some friends.
Sure.
All supportive, great guys. Yeah. Then I joined a band called Quieter, which is like an emo band from Seattle. That was kind of like a short-lived thing. A bunch of great guys there too. Just kind of getting out of the band, and I'm not sure where I'm at, and recorded them as well. And then for about a year, just haven't done anything. But this band I just joined, they're called Of Sleep, from Olympia area. Some of the members moved up here to Tacoma, so kind of just all over the place now.
Yeah.
That band started not because of my last band, but were influenced by my last band, Low There, Do I See My Brother.
Okay.
Musically had the same vibes, so it kind of just clicked right away. I was going to just record them, but they, I guess, lost some members and wanted to keep it going, and it just kind of fell into place. Sure. So I'm playing bass for them now.
Oh, bass. Okay. What's your instrument? Is bass your instrument? Or?
Bass has been my instrument for a while. Guitar is my main instrument, but I haven't played it in so long. I guess bass is now my main instrument.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. We're taking it very slow. We're all closer to the same age range, which is a first for me. I've always been the older person in the band, or maybe the younger, or whatever, at some point in any of the bands I've been in. So this is one that's more close to our age range.
Sure.
They have kids, they have jobs, so we're taking it slow. We have an album coming out. We just put a lot of time into. It's almost done.
Yeah. Did you record it?
Yeah, and at the nicer studio.
So as a tangent here, what do you, when you're in a band, when the band knows that you can do all that stuff, is it a burden? Well, I mean, it's probably not a burden, but
it's mixed.
Yeah.
I'm not one to really care too much. I'm in the band.
Yeah.
I'm there to serve. If I'm recording, I'm there to serve a purpose in that run. To me, it's more like just trying to help the band out, because it costs money.
Yeah.
So this is a way to kind of alleviate some of that cost. But I know that sometimes there can be conflict where you have a band member who's now taking over all this stuff for the entire band. So that's a trust level thing too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a band. So I have to have trust in those guys too.
Yeah.
And we all work together and have an open mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been that way for a while, but I'm sure there's some times where there might be a moment where we have a conflict, but it's generally a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Have you been in as well? One of the things that I've heard come up often with your kind of position, being knowledgeable in producing and engineering and being able to record bands, and then being in a band, if you spend the time to record your own band, you're losing opportunity to make money on another band because you'd be able to, or whatever.
I mean, and that's the thing. I know there's bands out there, even on a professional level, where they have their own members recording their band, and they do get paid for or credited or whatever. And I mean, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
But again, I'm looking at it from my level.
Okay. Yeah,
where I'm in the band and we're all local still. We're not some big band that has a budget, whatever. And I'm sure that if that was the case, it'd be a different story. We'd probably be treated more professionally or whatever. But to me, it's me just doing my part to help the band out, whether it's financially or doing this as a financial loss for me to make it work.
Sounds like you have a DIY ethic.
Yeah, that's pretty much it needs to get done.
Yeah,
I would like to get it done.
Yeah.
But again, it's what I like doing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me as well, because I play bass, which to me is that middle ground. You're connecting those drums to the guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
So in the recording realm, to me, it's the same scenario where you're kind of in the middle, bridging the gap with everybody.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about as much in the song. Like,
well, it's like what I've always said too. Is like the bass player is like the glue of the band.
Yeah.
You know, and you're taking that to the next level.
You're bridging the rhythm and melody together.
Yeah.
Accenting the feel of the song. And as a musician in the band, like as a member, like you kind of just, it's like I don't know, like if there's two sides that are arguing with each other, it's like you're that middle ground to bridge them together, but it's not really like that at all. It's just,
it's like the Spinal Tap quote, like lukewarm water. You're
gonna find me stuck outside of a sci-fi eggshell while the rest of the band is already like the guy's always lost.
Cool, awesome. So what kind of music is Of Sleep?
It's a post-rock band, basically all instrumental.
Okay.
If there's any.
Huh? You did mention that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was earlier before you started recording or not.
There are some vocals, but I mean, like literally a vocal line.
Yeah.
If it feels like it fits there, it goes there, because the vocals are like an instrument themselves. But
define for me, if you can, what does post rock mean?
I don't know who came up with that term.
Yeah.
It's basically like if you took Pink Floyd and took all the vocals out of it.
Okay.
Some of it is a journey.
Sure.
There's a lot of bands, one mainly that I could think of right now, Explosions in the Sky. You could find their music in a lot of movies.
Sure.
Like Friday Night Lights and the new movie Lone Survivor.
Okay,
it's like a soundtrack, basically.
Yeah.
It could be a soundtrack to your life, to some imagery, to a feeling. Like for their band, their music, their song titles kind of describe the feeling of the song. When you hear it, that's exactly what their title is describing. I think for my band, it's the same scenario. Like some of the song titles, I've seen them come up with the songs.
Yeah.
It describes a feeling, a journey, or an imagery, or whatever. It's just a more imaginary part of music.
So is post rock usually instrumental then?
Yes.
Okay.
Another band, Mogwai.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
They have lyrics in some of their songs, but most of their stuff is just instrumental.
Okay.
It's just the feeling of it all.
Cool.
On the music aspect.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could put lyrics in there, and then it becomes the feeling and the lyrical aspect.
Yeah.
That's just my interpretation of it. I don't know. It's really interesting. I like prog music.
Yeah.
Music that takes you places. Pink Floyd, Tool, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Post rock to me just really lets me feel the music when I'm playing it live.
Sure.
Like I can get into it instead of just rocking out, and somebody's like, singing their heart out, which is fine too. I like that too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. To hear these different types of styles of music and how they relate to each other in different ways.
Yeah.
But they're called different things.
So back when we were talking about your producer world and engineering world, I asked you like, what would you like to see, in your career going down? Like in the music world, what would you like to see you do? You did mention a little bit. You were saying you'd like to tour and things like that. So what are there any other things that you would like to see out of your kind of performance?
Honestly, like I haven't done a whole lot. I mean, I've toured a lot.
Yeah.
I got to play a couple days of Warped Tour, which I never thought I'd ever do.
Oh wow, cool.
I played one of the big venues in Seattle, the Showbox Market, when I first moved here, when they were doing local shows, which would be great to see them do that again.
Yeah.
I would like to tour in other countries, experience culture. I mean, I've been to other countries before. I was born in West Germany.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great to just gel with other cultures and community and see how those people interact with music and connect with people. One thing I liked about touring here in the U.S. is seeing places I would never get to see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of driving in the West Coast, so I like the scenery. I do like the kind of alone time with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I would like to have a point where I can play certain venues that I've seen other bands that I've gone to see play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm content already. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind just being a local band that just played and connected with each other and whatever, and maybe did occasional tours.
Yeah.
So it can go either way. go all out or just stay.
I relate to all that actually, but I've always wanted music to be my vehicle to see more of the world, and like that would be like it. That would be ideal if my music allowed me to travel the world.
Yeah.
That would be to be it.
And that's the thing too. Like I do recognize, I see, whether it's through friends who have toured over in Europe or Australia or wherever, or just watching videos or hearing from people who have liked my band in the past, how much they appreciate music compared to over here, where maybe we're spoiled or something, we're desensitized, or it's not exciting to us. But over there, they don't have what we have, so like they're super excited, and it's like going back and forth,
Well, just to bring it home to the Seattle Northwest conversation, that concept has been So I live in San Diego now. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
But I'm outside. I'm not in Seattle anymore, and just that distance has allowed me to see our community a little bit in a different way, and it's easy for me to say that as a community we take what we have for granted. Like we don't understand how much of a luxury we have of so much original music, so much art and culture happening that I think don't support enough.
I mean, that right there can go into a deeper thing with people around the world. If everybody around the world moved around and just saw how we all are on this planet, we'd probably be a lot better off understanding each other and working together. And that with music, which also helps bring people together, it's kind of like that too. You get a perspective. So I appreciate all of that stuff. I try to get into it as much as I can, but when you're dealing with daily life stuff, sometimes you get lost in there.
For sure.
But it's coming back. This band's about to release our record.
Cool.
So hopefully we can tour on that and do it all over again.
Awesome. Well, we're getting really close to the end, and you mentioned a little bit like you do some video. So why don't we talk about that just to wrap up this conversation with your aspirations in the video world?
So again, taught myself everything. My dad actually has inspired me on this.
Okay.
He's ex-military.
Sure.
But he's also a skydiver. He's been doing it his whole life. And I've been surrounded by that. And then what he would do was film skydiving. And they would, when I got into music when I was young, they were always using like Bush, Nirvana, or Tom Petty, whatever kind of bands were cool for skydiving videos. And it was all DIY. They're just doing their own thing. And then getting into the music world, seeing that that's a big part of it. There was MTV, Fuse, whatever. Now there's YouTube and all the other mediums for putting out music videos. I've been trying to get involved in doing music videos, so I've done a few here and there for some bands. It's all been DIY, just having an understanding of the basic editing and filming. It's really not super complicated. It's just time consuming. And if you have the right gear, of course. But that's one thing I feel like it's kind of been missing for a moment for some bands in the area. I have great ideas that probably will never come to fruition, starting a local channel that brings all the other channels together. There's Mountain House TV, which is awesome. They're doing their thing. It'd be great to see like groups go out to certain shows. There's all kinds of shows that happen at the same time, and people are missing it. So maybe if somebody filmed it or had people interviewing bands and have it all broadcast, like just basically rebuild what MTV started out as, but on a local level, promoting locals only or touring bands coming through on their own. That stuff would be cool. That's just an idea I had in my mind. One thing I would love to do though is film an indie film. Kind of like I actually mentioned it on the internet recently, and there's so many people who are like, "Yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do that. I want my band in there." Basically, I wanted to do like a music-based movie.
Cool.
Kind of like Clerks. Really indie, kind of comedy, but real, artsy, whatever you want to call it, black and white. Have it feature local bands. Just have some fun.
Well, I want to get in on that too, so we should talk more about that.
The idea is there. I think it just comes down to writing it out and making it happen.
Well, I think that for me, it's like I'm very similar in that world. Like I've done video with Word on the Street, and I have my own YouTube channel and all that stuff as well. And I definitely want to make a movie, right? Like you just described. And for me, it's like it's kind of a no-brainer to connect it to all the work I've already been doing with music and knowing the scene and what's, but it's like, for me, the hardest part is that story. What's the story that you can run through it all? And then of course the logistics of like aligning it all up. Like if there's a way to get a few actors to commit to whatever the production schedule is, but then you could kind of like, as long as they commit, I think you could film like multiple shows over a wide range of time. Yeah. But just make it look like it was all within a few nights or something, or something like that.
I definitely like just knowing all the people in the community, the Northwest music scene. I could see some people I know that would be great as lead actors or whatever. Yeah. I have friends that would be great scoring some music. And if I didn't make this movie, I would want to score some music for a movie. But I know people who are involved in video and other aspects, and it'd be kind of cool to just do a community thing, making a movie or not. I don't know.
We'll keep it on the burner or something, because I'm down. Let's make sure. Let's do it.
It's definitely on my mind right now. Yeah. So maybe get that motivation this year.
Right on.
Get something going.
Awesome. Well, like I said at the top, we'd like to drop in a song to end it off. So what do we want to close this out with?
Well, I mean, we talked about one of my last bands, Low There, Do I See My Brother.
Okay.
They just released an EP recently, but there's some cool songs from the record that we were a part of, that I was on. The album is Northern Shore. You Can't Take It With You is one of the singles off of that.
Okay.
It has vocals in it. There's some other songs on there that don't have vocals. I recommend checking out the whole record. I'd recommend checking out their last EP. I know they're working on some new stuff.
Sure.
And great band, great stuff. But You Can't Take It With You from Northern Shore, I think, would be kind of a cool, like, that song to me is like a Northwest song from different eras.
Sure.
Now and the past.
Cool.
So I don't know. Hopefully you enjoy that one.
Well, Ahren, thanks a lot for being a part of this. This was awesome.
Thank you.
More than I imagined. It was awesome. It was great.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't usually get to talk about all this stuff. There's so much information out there.
Yeah.
History.
Cool.
So.
All right. Well, let's leave it with one thing we should do before we close it off is, where can people reach out and find you? What's a good way?
Well, I'm on Facebook. No, I'm just kidding. I am on there, but I do have a website.
Okay.
It's where all my work is kept up to date, so people can see what I do and maybe want to work with me. www.ahrenlanfor.com.
Oh, okay, easy. Got it. I'll be sure to connect. I'll link that into the description of this podcast as well.
I appreciate that.
All right, so we'll leave it with Northern Shore. You Can't Take It With You. What was the album called?
Northern Shore's album.
Oh, it's just like self-titled?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Or actually, the band is Low There, Do I See My Brother?
Oh, yeah.
Album Northern Shore. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No, I messed that up, but that's all right.
It's okay.
Keeping it real here on Word on the Street. But, all right, so Low There. Well, say again?
It's a long. They're just called Low There now, actually. Okay, but they were called Low There, Do I See My Brother?
Do I see?
But Low There is simple, and that's what they're called now. So you could just go off of that.
All right. Well, we got what song's coming up, and you have to remember to party at the Moon Tower. Okay, I don't normally do this, but the song you're about to listen to is not the song we just mentioned. It's actually one of Ahren's songs from his band Of Sleep, and the song title is called With the Wind Upon My Face. So, here we go. All right, we made it to the end of another version of Word on the Street. Thanks so much for joining us today. Good to have you here. And we're pretty much done, but I have a few announcements to make. First, just another reminder that, support is where it happens. It's what we need to see, some support for the podcast. So go to patreon.com/wordonthestreet. No, patreon.com/thezim is the URL for the Patreon. Kick down a subscription of any amount that you choose, $1 or more. You can do it up, and there are some tier level things over there where you can get some little incentive things. You know how the game works. Anyways, do it up, check it out, patreon.com/thezim. Also go to facebook.com/wordonthestreetpodcast and give the page a like, share it with your friends, and also go to iTunes and find the podcast on iTunes, give a rating, give a review, subscribe to the podcast. And of course, you can find all these links on WOTSpodcast.com, including an email link to wordonthestreetpodcast@hotmail.com if you want to talk to me directly through there, or you can talk to me directly through Facebook, facebook.com/wordonthestreetpodcast. You can go to the Facebook page and leave a direct message, and I'll get it, and I'll get back to you ASAP, usually within minutes, because it comes to my phone. So I'm like, what? Somebody's talking to me? I want to talk to them. So that's how it rolls over there. And then, of course, I do YouTube stuff, youtube.com/thezim video. Every week I do a video journal, and part of the video journal I break down some ideas that happen on the podcast, or some kind of behind the scenes look at the podcast, whether it be something that happened on the podcast itself or something that happened because of the podcast, like, I don't know, how much it got shared that week and things like that, or it was one of the most downloaded or whatever, things like that. So those are one of the many things I talk about on the video journal. So check it out, and I post a bunch of other videos on the Zim video. So be sure to subscribe to that channel and get down with it, man. You know what I'm saying? But then also, what's the last thing? Oh, Alexander Thomas, like I mentioned on the top, my incentive level. There's also another way to support this whole thing. It's just by straight up buying one of those suckers. So if you bought one, that'd be awesome. And for making it all the way to the end of this week's podcast, I like to offer a weekly discount code. So what should we do? Well, Ahren Lanfor, his letters to his name are A and L. So we'll go the letter A, the letter L, and the number 3, and the number 5. And one extra 5 because I need 5 characters for the Etsy promo code. So it's AL355. So if you type in AL355 to the discount code thing on the Etsy store, you'll get 35% off. You'll be supporting the podcast. You'll be helping out everything. So do it up if you feel so inclined. All right, that's it for today. Thanks a lot for joining, and I'll catch you again next week. Peace out.